everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, I will be talking about WildWorks' new game, Feral. If you didn't know, Feral is made by the same developers who made Animal Jam and Animal Jam Play Wild. Feral is currently in its beta stage, which means the game isn't fully developed and ready to be officially moved to the public and out of its beta testing. WildWorks is currently only letting a few players in at a time, as the stage Feral's in right now is the closed beta. Soon enough, though, Feral will open to its open beta, which means that anyone can download and test the game. Now that we've talked about the beta, let's talk about the currently playable characters. You have the Kitsune, the Sundry, and the Dragon as confirmed players right now, but there are also some unconfirmed species that you might be able to play as in the future. Those species happen to be the Griffin, the Fairy, and the Elf. In the Create Avatar screen, you have two options, the Kitsune and the Sundry. There are many available color options, which I do have to say is pretty nice. Now let's talk about the current realms. The confirmed realms in Feral are City Farah, which as you can see I am going around right now. And in City Farah, you've also got some of these pretty cool back alleys and whatnot. You have Lake Root Valley, which looks like this. It looks like this to start with, but when you go into this bridge portion, it opens up to this really nice, pretty valley, which I really like. Blood Tundra, which overall is one of my favorite lands, not because it's like spooky and whatnot, but because there are lots of resources that you can build a lot of stuff in. Lockpicks. There are a lot of lockpicks in Blood Tundra, which is really helpful if you're out of lockpicks or need to find more. Then this is probably the place to go. You have Shattered Bay, which is basically the import section of Feral. This is where a bunch of different players will come to trade, and another portion where you're able to shop for different materials if you're not able to find some on your own. Then here is Mugmire Marsh. Mugmire Marsh is nice because there are a lot of missions to do in this section, and even though there aren't a lot of lockpicks around for you to find straight away, there are a lot of different materials you can gather, such as these little beetle bug things that I can never remember what they're called. And you also have a lot of mushroom spores. You also can occasionally find a bunch of bats, which are really nice to get in bat leather. And there are also lots of chests for you to find, most of which happen to be under these big roots. And last, you have the Sunken Thicket. The Sunken Thicket doesn't actually stand out to me a lot because there aren't a lot of materials, but there are a bunch of NPCs to talk to, such as this Granny Gertrude right here, which is probably the creepiest old lady I've ever seen in a game. But there aren't any materials for you to collect, and if you have trypophobia, something like that, I still don't know how to pronounce it. No, I'm not pronouncing it right, then this probably isn't the place for you. Because the bottom of that mushroom thing, that's not right. Now let's talk about materials you can collect. In Sunken Thicket, there aren't a lot, like I said in the past part of this video. However, there are certain lands where there are a lot of materials. So, for example, we're gonna go to Lake Root Valley. Now, as you can see, when you walk in, like in the beginning, it looks like this, and oh my god, my lag is about to kill me. Anything that has the sparkles rising up from it is something that you can pick up. If you get close enough to it, you can either hold E on your keyboard or hold it and click it. And as you can see, back over here, you get materials. In that case, I got a Dandy Seed. And then I got a Venus Burr from that. And usually with different plants there are 3 hits, and I got another Venus Burr there. Now, there are lots of different materials that you're able to collect, some of which happen to be in water, or occasionally they'll be on land. Well, most of them are on land. What am I saying? But over here, you can see that there is an option where you can dive. So if you hold E or you click that, I prefer to hold, I got a glowing conch there. There are also different ones that are fast, such as these water striders that you have to be really quick to get. In that case, I managed to get a water strider, which was pretty lucky. And this, I'm not entirely sure what this is since I haven't picked one up in a while. I got an aquarium root. That's right. There are also somewhat these eggs you can pick up. I'm not quite sure what they're like used for. They're called cinderfish eggs. Like, I'm not quite sure what they're used for. But since in Feral, instead of Animal Jam, where you can just go to a shop and buy the items from the shop or trade with other players, in order to get items without trading, you technically have to craft them by going out and finding materials just out in the wilderness. Which honestly, I really like about this game, because there's like a lot more adventure to it than there is Animal Jam. And as you can see, if you're looking for lockpicks, oh god, lag is starting to kill me here. Those little shiny things on the ground there, those are lockpicks. Now, if you're wondering what you're able to use lockpicks for, if you go around and you look for these chests over here somewhere, I know that there's one around here. I couldn't find any in the other land I was in, which I already forgot what land I was in before. Some chests you don't need lockpicks to open, which in this case are the brown ones. You can just hold and spec and you'll get rewards such as this one. Which I got 15 likes, aka is like the money in the game. Okay, so even though it took a really long time, I finally managed to find a chest that you can open with lockpicks, even though it took me about 3 days, I finally found it. This is somewhat what the interface looks like. Some chests have 1 lock, others have 2, and there are others that have 3, but those ones are really tricky because they go really fast, but you know, like, the ones that are harder usually have better stuff in it. This one has 2 locks, so it's probably gonna have some good stuff in it. However, the faster they are, the more likely your lockpick's gonna get broken. So if I were you, if you have chests like this, I would completely recommend just going out and collecting a shit ton of lockpicks. And I only got 5 dandy seeds. That's disappointing. But usually the more locks and the more difficult a chest is, the better loot you get. Now, with that said and done, let's talk about enigmas and other combinations that you can make with sketches and inspirations. Now, if you don't know what inspirations are, if you go around the lands, it's basically like finding materials. Except when you interact with it, you will get sketches that you will add to your sketches with your sketchbook. And what you can do with those is you can find different enigma combinations. And if you find the correct combinations, you can get enigmas, which if you take to Twigla's workshop, she can unwrap it for you, and it turns into an item that you're able to craft that you can't get anywhere else. Now, there is a website that I really like to go to called Feral Archives. Shout out to Feral Archive. They have this really helpful page of Enigma combinations and locations guide. They have one page of all Enigma recipes and locations. It says that this is currently outdated, sadly. This is somewhat what the combinations look like. If you go to my sketchbook, you get a screen that looks like that. When you open it, you have all of these little sketches that you're able to click on and whatnot. Because, you know, you can click on everything. What am I saying? But there are certain ones that you can click on. And when you get these sketches, you can combine them, and occasionally you are able to get enigmas, like I said in the beginning portion of this. As of now, there are only a few known enigma combinations, which are on the Feral Archives. And you start out with, you know, just these basic ones, but when you go around Feral, you are able to get a bunch of other inspirations that you add to your sketchbook.